There is one enduring video moment above all others in Willie McCovey's career, and it is an out. It was his screaming line drive in the ninth inning of the seventh game that would have won the 1962 World Series for the San Francisco Giants. Matty Alou was at third base and Willie Mays at second when McCovey hit a rocket directly at seemingly surprised New York Yankee second baseman Bobby Richardson, who caught the ball and gave the Yankees a 1-0 win and another title. It was the last World Series moment McCovey would ever have, and yet he is regarded by those who saw him as one of the game's most extraordinary power hitters and a clear difference maker in nearly every game he ever played, either in opponent, preparation or result. A first-ballot Hall of Famer, unanimous winner as National League Rookie of the Year based on only 52 games in 1959. The namesake for a cherished team award and the most recognizable bit of the San Francisco Bay. And for you Metrics fans, the 13th best first baseman in history by Jaws, one of the leading database parsers of the game through the eras. Ratto, McCovey, the quintessential Giant, yet his greatness is largely the word of mouth and you had to be there to understand it variety. McCovey's passing at age 80, apparently of complications from an infection that hospitalized him a week earlier, was the first universally beloved San Francisco Giant. It was his reward for being the first Giant whose first great achievement did not come before the franchise moved from New York, and as the one who stayed in the Bay Area almost without interruption from the time he arrived in San Francisco until his death. But as a player, his signature moments were rarely captured on film in an era in which many games went untelevised. In other words, you had to see him hit a ball into and through the teeth of the savage Candlestick Park wind to understand it. You had to see him stretch improbably to dig a ball out of the dirt that few first basemen could have even reached by coming off the bag. You had to hear the story about Don Drysdale trying to hit him repeatedly with a pitch because Mays turned a double into a single so that Drysdale would have to pitch to him, and Drysdale refusing to do so even in defiance of baseball strategy. You had to hear the esteem and even awe in which he was held by his contemporaries in an era in which nearly every one of the 20 major league teams had at least one Hall of Famer, and some, like the Giants, had several. It was his unfortunate luck to be on a team that would have dominated the 60s had there not been the Dodgers and then the Cardinals to prevent their ascension to multiple World Series. It was his fate to play in an era with Mays and Henry Aaron and Frank Robinson and Roberto Clemente and Mickey Mantle and Ernie Banks and Harmon Killebrew and Al Kaline and Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson and Juan Marichal and Carl Yastrzemski and Joe Morgan and Willie Stargell and dozens of others. It was his place to be included in that group without the one recognizable moment in which he stood triumphant. But the players knew, and the people who watched him knew. He was on greatness' short list, and if the technology missed him too often, the eyes of those who lived in the era did not. He was the player the Giants traded Orlando Cepeda to keep, and the player they brought back after his prime years ended because he belonged in and to San Francisco in ways that no other Giant ever has. McCovey was a triumph of endurance in the face of constant challenges, and it's hard to make a video of that. He was a touchstone for the first generation of Giants fans who passed their love of the game and the team to their children, and it's hard to make a video of that, either. But maybe it helps that the Giants, who traded him at age 35 to San Diego for pitcher Mike Caldwell, don't ask, in 1973 felt compelled to bring him back at age 39 so that he could close his career out with a team that defined him, and kept him for another 3 years because he meant that much to them. And maybe it helps that McCovey Cove is not just an easy alliterative notation, but a thoroughly earned honorific that transcends his career and extends his fame for generations. And when those who didn't know ask those who did to define Willie McCovey, the only true answer is, you had to be there. Best trust me on that. He was every bit as great as you have ever heard, but you still have to add 30% because verbal descriptions decades removed from their real impact should actually grow, not shrink. But if it helps, there is still the Cove. For those who didn't know why Willie McCovey should be so designated, well, put it simply, It could have been nobody else. San Francisco, Willie McCovey, Willie Mays and Barry Bonds gathered at it. 9 months later, the Giants lost a member of their 500 home run club, and shortly after McCovey died, team president and CEO Larry Baer spoke to Mays. He felt like he lost a brother, Baer told NBC Bay Area on Wednesday. Barry Bonds felt like he lost a mentor and a father figure. These were players that were iconic players in our sport and they don't come around often. You want them to live forever. These are players that really wrote part of the history of the sport, so it was very, very hard for all of us. But you know, I think when we absorb this, we'll realize the beautiful person he was. We called him the gentle giant. McCovey died after a long battle with ongoing health issues. In a release announcing McCovey's death, the Giants said fans who wish to offer condolences may send letters to the ballpark, addressed to Forever 44. They also can email forever44@sfgiants.com. The organization plans to hold a public celebration of McCovey's life at a later date. There's a reason the Willie Mac Award is for the most inspirational player. There's a reason we do the Willie Mac Stretch Drive where we raise money for kids, Baer said. He loved kids. There's a reason that Willie was at every game. We'd love to do something where we can invite the fans and the public to pay homage to Willie. We're working on that right now. San Francisco. Every year, the Giants go to great lengths to make sure past winners are at it. Some of the acceptance speeches went long, but the namesake of the award always was quick. Willie McCovey would announce the winner, and then he would move out of the way, letting the spotlight shine on a current Giant. After the ceremony, though, there often was another speech. A private one. He didn't like to give big speeches, but away from the mic, he would come up and say, "I'm really proud of you," and he would go, "I voted for you." Mike Krukow, who won the Willie Mac Award in 1985 and 1986, said Wednesday. He may have said the same thing to every Willie Mac Award winner, but I believed him. He was just a wonderful presence in our lives every day. McCovey died Wednesday at the age of 80. He rightly will be remembered for a Hall of Fame career that included 521 home runs, but the Giants always have honored him just as much for the way he went about his business. The Willie Mac Award is given to the team's most inspirational player and voted on by players, coaches, clubhouse staff and McCovey. It's extremely meaningful to Giants players, and the list of past winners is an impressive one. Nick Hundley, the 2017 winner, said it's a Mount Rushmore moment for players. It's important just because of how awesome a person he was, Hundley said. It's not very often that you see a player that's as humble as he is talented, and people gravitate toward that. This is a tough day for Giants fans and for the players. Brandon Crawford remembered McCovey as one of the easiest former players to talk to. He said you could tell how closely McCovey was following the team, and he remembered McCovey always asking about his family. The award signifies the way he played the game, but also how he was as a person and teammate, said Crawford, who shared the 2016 Willie Mac Award with Javier Lopez. It's voted on by the people that you are with every day of the season, the guys who watch you grind out a long season on the field, and also how you are in the clubhouse as a teammate. That's why it's such a big deal to us as Giants players to win the Willie Mac Award. Lopez remembered McCovey as someone who represented the city of San Francisco well. As a player, I always admired that, Lopez said. His connection with his teammates over 20-plus years was something that he took pride in, and as a winner of the award, along with Brandon Crawford, it is something I always tried to do. Connect with players and lead by example, which Willie did so well for so long. McCovey was a regular at the ballpark, even as he suffered health problems. He talked to the Giants in spring training, which meant more to them than he might have realized. Hundley was an example of someone who admired McCovey while playing against the Giants, then cherished the time he got to spend with him as a Giant. You're starstruck, but then you talk to him and hear some of his stories and see how smart and humble and gracious he is with everybody, Hundley said. He's the type of guy that everybody wanted to be around, and somehow he made time for everybody.